A little recap of the last chapter for this manhwa. Due to the protagonist showing his true strength, Bernaf was forced to take their fight seriously and showed everything he'd got just to fight Ghislaine. But once Ghislaine releases his third core, the fight is all over, and when Ghislaine was about to finish off Bernaf, he was stopped by Amelia and was forced to agree to pay up the 20,000 gold, which was an increased amount than they were before. And now back to the current situation. After the negotiation with Ghislaine, Amelia's house was left with the remnants of the destruction due to their fight with the protagonist. Amelia was very angry due to this humiliation, and Bernaf apologized to Amelia for underestimating Ghislaine. He blamed himself believing those rumors about the protagonist, and for not assessing him correctly beforehand. Bernaf was also in disbelief upon seeing the protagonist emitting such strong mana, even surpassing that of an advanced-leveled knight. Amelia realized that Ghislaine had changed, and when Bernaf proposed to report this incident to the Delphine Duchy, he was immediately slapped by Amelia. Amelia told Bernaf that Duke Delphine is a very scary person, and they will be done for if he finds out what happened to them fighting the so-called trash person. Amelia explained the reason why she secretly allied with Duke Delphine without her father's knowledge, and it was because of a covert agreement between them. Duke Delphine will support Amelia's rebellion that she would lead in the future in exchange for her assistance in bringing down the Perdium estate. And once this plan is exposed, she knows that all her siblings will try to kill her immediately. And they suspected that Ghislaine already knows her plans, since Ghislaine tried to threaten her by exposing her secret guild merchant that Amelia created. And they plan to do whatever it takes to kill the protagonist. Amelia asks Bernaf about Ghislaine's condition after the fight. Bernaf explains how he manages to leave light injuries to the many parts of Ghislaine's body, and the heavy one on his shoulder. And Bernaf also guesses that protagonist should be not in his best condition, since he saw him spend an explosive amount of mana in his fight earlier. In order to not expose traces in assassinating Ghislaine, Bernaf suggested not to use their own knights, and Amelia told Bernaf that it is now the time to use her secretly trained people, which they called wildcats. These wildcats are a group consisting of war orphans with no kin and status, and only the most talented natural-born specialist among them is the wildcat traffickers. Amelia ordered Bernaf to call them and to choose a dozen of them who are proficient with mana. Bernaf saw the place that Amelia pointed at, and this place was an ideal place for handing an enemy quietly. Since the area was remote and the terrain was tight, Amelia thought that she needed Ghislaine to pay for his life because of the humiliation that she experienced from him. In the town after they leave Amelia's house, Ghislaine tended his own wound while his people were worried about him. The protagonist thought that the 20,000 gold that he took from Amelia was enough to cover the base fund needed to rebuild the Perdium estate. He didn't kill Amelia, because if he killed her, the war would be unavoidable, and he can't risk the safety of his people because of his momentary whims. It is ideal to back off for now, since Perdium is still having difficulty defending the north from the barbarians. The fact that Ghislaine knows the secret about the Arctium Merchant Guild will put Amelia enough burden, and this time, he will make good use of Amelia. While Belinda was looking at the protagonist, she told him that all the things are going exactly as what the protagonist told her. Ghislaine told Belinda to subdue the guards once she heard fighting noises inside the room, and told Fergus to take Amelia as a hostage, but Belinda was the one who did it also. But all of a sudden, Ghislaine felt a strong pain and vomited blood. This was the recoil after opening up the third core. The protagonist needs to find a way to increase his mana quickly, so that he can avoid this troublesome side effect every time he uses his power. When Belinda took Ghislaine's hand, she noticed that the flow of mana in the protagonist's body is a mess right now, and then she performed an acupuncture like on his hands. After that, the protagonist felt something in his stomach and blew some steam out of his body. And then the protagonist noticed that his entangled mana road had opened up a bit. Ghislaine knew that Belinda is not an ordinary maid, since his mother brought her. And after doing that she did. The protagonist is now curious about who she really is. Ghislaine doesn't know why a skilled individual is working as a maid in the countryside, but it is good to have as many skilled allies by his side, since he knows that this is just the beginning, and there are more difficult roads ahead of him. Belinda asks the protagonist why he took a huge amount of money from Amelia. Ghislaine only answered that he needed to spend money, and the only rich person he knows right now is Amelia. Fergus and Belinda were shocked hearing Ghislaine's answer. Belinda was angry, and asked Ghislaine what would happen if Count Rayfold found out about this incident. But Ghislaine assured them that Amelia can't tell his father about this, and told them to trust him. Belinda was still angry, but she asked Ghislaine to at least tell them what he will do or use that money for. Ghislaine told them that he will use that money to pioneer the Forest of Beast. They were so shocked after hearing Ghislaine. Fergus tried to stop Ghislaine, and he explained that this development has been attempted since the time of his great-grandfather, but before Fergus can continue, he was interrupted by Ghislaine asking him about the thing that he requested before entering the Rayfold castle. Fergus just sighs since he could not change his young master's mind. He recalled that the person that Ghislaine wanted to find was indeed in the said location, but now he is reluctant because of the condition of the person that Ghislaine wanted to find, and the protagonist just said that it is okay as long as he is still alive, and they need to go to that place right now. Belinda tried to stop him and suggested that they will have to go home right now, because of the condition that the protagonist is in right now. Ghislaine asks Belinda if Amelia would let him go easily after what he did to her, and he knows that he will try to kill him. Belinda is confident that they can defend Ghislaine, with her and Fergus protecting the protagonist, but Ghislaine said that what he needs right now is a vanguard, and they are on their way to meet him. They arrived in the slum area. They knocked at a house which looked like an abandoned house. Then a very tall old bearded man opens up the door. Belinda was doubtful and asks Ghislaine if he is sure that this old man is the one they needed, and that he is in no condition to fight or even survive tomorrow. But Ghislaine was sure that they came to the right place. The old man asked if the noble in front of him was bored and tried to drive them away because the old man thought that they were wasting their time. But when the old man tried to go back inside his house, the protagonist called him back using his previous title and name, the ex-captain of the Regressed Mercenaries, Gillian. Gillian turned back and was intrigued by the fact that the protagonist knows him, and then Ghislaine told him that he was looking for him. They were shocked to hear it, since the Regressed Mercenaries are a famous mercenary group that only those who have mastered the most weapons can join. But right now they no longer exist. They are famous even in foreign lands, and the captain of this famous group is right in front of them, and that is Gillian. But after that, Ghislaine saw a flying axe that was thrown barely missing his face. The three of his companions were now on high alert and tried to defend him, while Gillian asked the protagonist to state his business. Ghislaine mentions the eternal punishment and that he knows how to cure the incurable illness that Gillian's daughter is suffering from. The symptoms of this illness are a high fever, coughing up blood, red spots blooming like flower petals on their skin, and due to the pain that it gives to the victim that resembles a prisoner under a heavy punishment, gave this incurable disease its name, the eternal punishment. When they were inside the house, they saw Gillian's daughter Rachel, shouting and suffering. Gillian saw his suffering daughter and hugged her. Ghislaine thought that it was still not too late. In his previous life, he tried to search for Gillian, but he was already dead by the time he found him. Gillian gave up everything, and as soon as his daughter passed away, he also ended his own life. Ghislaine looked around the state of Gillian's house and saw that all his assets must have been spent on the treatment of his sick daughter, leaving only his weapons. Rachel was shouting at his dad that she wanted to die right now and that she was hurting so much. When Ghislaine saw this, he immediately prepared himself to start the treatment, since there was no time to waste. But he was stopped by Belinda. Belinda doesn't know what the protagonist was trying to do, but she explained that it is a disease so severe that even priests can't cure it, and they even called this as a punishment from the heavens. But Ghislaine doesn't care about Belinda's opinion, and says to her that he can fix Rachel, and that he should trust him. Ghislaine handed Belinda a list of medicinal herbs that she needed to purchase, and Belinda was shocked to see the list where some of them are very expensive. Knowledge is directly tied to survival for mercenaries without a home, so after he got all the ingredients, Ghislaine started the preparation in making the cure of the said disease. Although eternal punishment is an incurable disease at the present time, the cure will be discovered in the future. It became a hot topic in his past life, and especially the method was relatively easy or simple. The only problem was that the cost of the ingredients were very expensive. The method was to chop the fairy blessing in the herbs, pack them tightly in a bottle, and pour some alcohol over them. Shake the bottle well and let it sit for a while, and then add the remaining ingredients and stir properly. A while later, the potion is now complete, and Ghislaine handed it to Gillian and told him to let Rachel drink it. Gillian followed Ghislaine's instruction and poured the potion into the mouth of his daughter. After a while, the redness of his daughter's skin is visibly fading away. Fergus and Belinda were shocked about what they saw, and Gillian can't believe that the medicine actually worked. Ghislaine was sure that the medicine worked, and Gillian asked him how it worked, when even the divine power can't cure his daughter. Ghislaine explained that the priest's divine power is not omnipotent, and it only enhances the body's vitality and strengthens a person's regenerative abilities to help overcome the illness, and it is different from a fundamental cure. Gillian, visibly shaken, asks Ghislaine if his daughter can be completely cured, and the protagonist just answers him that in a couple of months, he guarantees that his daughter will be cured. After hearing it, Gillian kneeled in front of the protagonist and asked Ghislaine what he liked from him. Gillian knew that the protagonist helped him because he wanted something from him. Gillian stated that he only has his useless body and if he wants him to be a dog, he will do it, or if he wants him to be a slave, he will also be his slave for life. Ghislaine told Gillian that he doesn't want a slave. What he needs from Gillian is the captain of the Regressed mercenaries. After looking at Ghislaine's dreamy eyes, he stood up and held his long hair while cutting it using his axe. But after cutting his hair, Ghislaine's companions were visibly shocked to see the changes of Gillian's aura, which was completely different from before. Gillian turned around and asked Ghislaine if there was anyone besides them that came with them or were looking for them, and Ghislaine told him that it was only the 4 of them. Gillian asks if there were people who have a grudge against the protagonist, and Ghislaine told him that there are, and there will be many in the future. Gillian grabs a spear with a rope and strongly throws it outside while hitting a tree, and then he pulls it back, while dragging a man who was hit by the spear. Gillian then grabs his neck and asks him who sent him. The man couldn't believe what happened, and then Gillian asks the protagonist what to do with him. Ghislaine already knew who sent the man, and when he was about to unsheath his sword to kill the man, he was stopped by Gillian, and Gillian choked the man to death. After Belinda saw how the old man killed the enemy without hesitation, he was wondering why the protagonist wants this dangerous old man. Then Gillian kneeled again in front of Ghislaine and pledges to offer his life in the protagonist's hands. Ghislaine was thrilled because he now had gotten a very crucial card for his upcoming reconstruction plan on the Perdium estate. In a small cabin deep in the forest, a group leader of the wildcat traffickers, Viego, is listening to the report of his subordinate. He can't believe that the reconnaissance unit who was following the protagonist is dead. According to the intel that was given by Bernaf, Ghislaine shouldn't even be able to find their reconnaissance unit, let alone kill them. He was wondering if the reconnaissance unit was incompetent or the intel they have was incorrect, when his subordinate said that it was possible, because Gillian joined Ghislaine's group. Viego choked his subordinate and asked him if he was sure about it, and his subordinate said that he saw it with his own eyes. Then Viego was kinda excited knowing that his former captain is now on the move. Gillian is now riding as a coachman, and they are now on their way to the Perdium estate. Belinda is complaining about being suffocated due to the many weapons that Gillian brings, and also they have to buy another carriage because of this. She even thought that maybe Gillian is an arms dealer. Ghislaine told Belinda that it was fine, because they needed to buy another carriage, because they have to bring Rachel comfortably anyway. And on the rear guard was Fergus and Ricardo, on a separate carriage that Rachel was riding on. Ghislaine also told Belinda that all of these weapons are going to be used by Gillian, and the most important thing is that they needed to escape a rift that they were about to pass. Belinda asked Ghislaine about the watcher that they caught, if it was actually Amelia who sent them, and Ghislaine said that he was certain of it. Belinda is now worried, because the mask that he was wearing was a symbol used by the wildcat traffickers, which is a powerful guild in Rayfold. They are a filthy guild who take on all the vile work, like smuggling, assassination, drug and human trafficking, and many more. They are a shadowy guild armed with combat power, since most of their members are former mercenaries. Ghislaine asks Belinda how she knew this information, when all she did was stay at the castle, and Belinda was stuttering while saying that she knew this before she started working at Perdium, and they needed to be careful. Ghislaine just told Belinda that it was fine, because they now have Gillian on their side. After passing a certain place, there was a bump on the ground that moved to the side of their carriage. Gillian noticed it immediately, and there were 2 people that jumped out, while trying to attack Gillian on both sides. Gillian calmly informed them that there was an ambush, and pulled his short sword and axe, and blocked both attacks. Gillian then twisted the weapon of his enemies, and cut both their arms and sliced their heads, killing both of them. After that, the enemies cut the ropes that were tied to many gigantic logs to trap them. Gillian was forced to stop their carriage so that they could avoid being crushed by those logs. Ghislaine already expected this ambush, and he saw a lot of enemies popping up. Viego called the former captain of the Regressed mercenary, Gillian, and said that he was a coward who disbanded his entire mercenary group merely because of his daughter. Viego told Gillian that he ended up living a life that he never wanted to, and asked him if he had forgotten his former peer, because he had gotten senile. But Gillian didn't even react to his provocations, and then Viego ordered his men to kill them all. Ghislaine just casually asked Gillian if he needed help, and Gillian just told Ghislaine to rest in the meantime, because the enemy seems to have some business with him, and that he should be fine on his own. While being attacked by 4 enemies, Gillian grabbed his axe and swung it so hard that the 4 enemies' bodies were sliced into halves. The other enemies were angry seeing their comrades die, and continued attacking Gillian. Gillian then grabbed another weapon on his right hand and easily sliced his enemies one by one. Viego was only watching. While seeing Gillian was still as strong as he used to be, he then ordered his men to spread out in 2 groups and attacked Gillian on both sides. But Gillian jumped on one of the horses and grabbed a spear axe that was attached to the side of the horse and moved his horse towards his enemies. He then swung his spear axe weapon at his enemies and destroyed their formation, killing them. The enemies were having a hard time going near Gillian, while the others suggested attacking the horse. But then Gillian's spear axe was actually attached to a rope and swung it around while attacking it again to his enemies, killing another batch. Ghislaine and Belinda were only watching on the sideline, while the dead enemies were piling up. At that moment, Viego jumped at the back of Gillian and was now entering the fight. Gillian, noticing it, grabbed his shield and blocked Viego's attack. Viego was now very angry at Gillian because he ruined his life, and he wants to make sure that he will kill Gillian right now. Viego then grabbed a couple of daggers and threw them at the horse and killed it. When Gillian jumped back, Viego followed a stab right at his face, but was blocked by Gillian. Gillian then used his shield to stab the side of Viego, while saying that he is not the captain of the Regressed mercenaries. Viego was thrown away by the impact of the attack, and was angry hearing Gillian's nonsense of him not being the captain of the Regressed mercenary. He then asks him who he is now. Gillian told him that he has discarded his past, and he is now a subordinate of his young master, Ghislaine Perdium. Viego was so angry and attacked Gillian immediately, while shouting that he will kill him at all costs. This is the end of the translated chapter. We'll continue when a new translated chapter is released. Thank you, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.